Hello and welcome to a new episode of Tynkrring with X, Y, and Z. I'm Aru, I'm your host, and I'm joined with.
I'm Shailendra and I'm the co-host. And happy Republic Day!
Yeah, we are recording this on Republic Day.
It is apt.
Yeah,
It
so
is
so,
apt,
so I think it is apt that we talk about this Supreme Court ruling about the inclusion of women in army, like regarding
Permanent commission.
permanent commission, and women are being allowed into NDA now, having seats there. So I think it's based on the Article 16, which is equal opportunity should be provided to everyone, and there should be no discrimination, or no person should be denied employment on the basis of gender and like caste, religion, etc., on the basis of these grounds. So I think with on that basis, Supreme Court ruled in March 2021, and it became confirmed in November 2021 that now girls can also write NDA, and or women will be given permanent commission. And so so let's like go back a little bit in time to talk about the women's presence in Indian Armed Forces. It took way back in 1888 with the inclusion of Indian military nursing service. So women actually first came into the army as nurses, and they played a big part in World War One and Two, where they aided to all these soldiers, and they did such a good job that they actually were included into an army as one of the
Core.
as one of the corps, like. And that's how it started, and it took another like almost 50 years for women to be included in any non-medical roles of army. And it was in 1992 that women were allowed to serve in non-combat roles, but the first time non-medical roles as well, in like administration and accounting and telecommunications, etc. And if we look at different statistics of Indian Army, I think up to 2018, these are I think the last statistics, there are 6,807 women, which constitute about 0.56% of the army.
0.5%.
0.5% of the army. The Indian Air Force has 1,800 women, which represents a percent of women in Air Force. And Indian Navy has like 700, which is 6.5% because of the smaller number in naval forces. And there and compare this to US, there are about 200,000 women in active roles in the army,
which is like 20%.
Which is 20% of their bench strength. So I feel like now with this ruling, we might have more women coming up, obviously. And we have a very good guest to talk about, because she was there in the army. I think her better.
I know.
College friend. I think you should have the honor to introduce her.
So we're going to talk to Squadron leader Ruchita Sisodhiya today. And Ruchita has been a great friend. We were together in college in good old days. And then she went on to serve the nation and served there for a few years, and then she came out, she joined the civilian life again, and then she has been again serving the nation in different capacity altogether now. So we'll be having a new friend of Tynkrr today.
Yes.
Squadron leader Ruchita Sisodhiya Karthikeyan would be joining us.
So let's go on to that segment now.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to our next segment, which is
the friend of Tynkrr.
And I'm so happy to introduce a friend of Tynkrr who is also my own best college friend. Ruchita Sisodhiya Karthikeyan is here today. Thank you so much, Ruchita, for joining in.
Hi, Shailendra, and hi, Aru. I really feel it's a beautiful feeling to be among both of you.
Same here.
So can you introduce yourself to the audience who's going to be listening, who are not familiar with you as of yet?
As Shailendra has already told, my name is Ruchita Sisodhiya Karthikeyan. I'm from a defense background. So if I put it together. I'm Squadron leader Ruchita Sisodhiya. I joined Air Force in the year 1998, and I took release in the year 2009. So I put in around 12 years of service, and born, brought up in Dehradun. So defense flows in the blood, I would say. And now I am residing in Delhi, working in a school, and that's about the introduction part of it.
So the first question I would want to ask you would be, when you first joined, it was a while back. It's been a few years since you've joined, since you had joined defenses. What did you expect when you were planning on stepping into this field, and what did you experience there? What was your experience like during those 12 years of service?
See, honestly, Aru, when I joined way back, it's been 23 years now. That time, it was more of the love was only for the uniform, and obviously, flying machines are always has been an attraction to everybody. Though I was not in the flying branch, but just joining the defense services itself was a matter of pride. And when I actually joined in, it was a total, I would say, a different world altogether. What we were and what I became. I will give a lot of credit to defense services for making me what I am today. When I went for my first SSB, I had absolutely no idea what it was. We just filled up the form, and Shailendra is a party to it, that they all pushed me together, go, give SSB. And we had absolutely, there was not much of coaching, not much of guidance back then, as there are a lot of institutes now. So when you go in there, you go as a raw person. And what they select, I think the SSB that way has a kind of, the selection procedure is such that they choose the person only if you are fit for that job. And thereafter, being in defense has brought in a lot of confidence, a lot of discipline. The way you live your life once you are in defense forces is very, very different from the civil arena. Because I started from the civil arena, went into defense, came out, now I'm working in civil. So I can see the differences. When you are in defense forces, I would say the first thing which we learn is the value of time. If you say it is 1:30, it means 1:25 for me. It doesn't mean 1:31. And I really value that, because it had instilled the moment you start valuing time, the time values you. That is, I think, the first lesson we learned when we joined defense services. Fauji ko ek bar, it goes into your mind that this is you have to do, it cannot get out. And as we always say, once a Fauji, always a Fauji. I have left the forces, but the forces haven't left me. It is a very, very deep-rooted culture, which you cannot get out of it. And there are a lot of good things which you have learned from it. So I would rather carry it as a value system.
Yeah. I also wanted to know the recent developments with women regarding in army and armed forces, with giving them permanent commission in a little more areas in army.
Including combat.
Yeah, including combat as well. What was your reaction? Like, what do you think, is this a good step? What they should do so that it actually works well?
See, Aru, as a woman, I believe I may sound a bit conservative, but I feel that God has created men and women different. Both of us, both these genders have their own pros and cons, USPs. As a woman, what I can do, a man cannot do. But there is always, similarly, for a man, what he's supposed to do, a woman, God has created, that is how our nature is. That is a balance which is being maintained. Yes, as a woman, I can do all those things which we say in defense, I can be in a combat role. I can fly. If I can fly a transport, I can always fly a fighter. But the issues when you are inside that, you realize that there are certain things which do get difficult at times. When I had joined, my first posting was this place called Nal near Bikaner. And as I'm telling, back then, I was the first woman officer to be posted in that unit. So when you hear of things that when I went to an office and we didn't had a toilet exclusively for ladies. This may sound a very, very menial thing today, but 25 years, 23 years back then, and it is an issue. Okay, after a week, 10 days, okay, the guys also got used to it. Okay, you will just walk into a gents toilet and latch the main door and go inside because there was no option. But it takes time to adjust. These days, okay, now that women have been with men, we have trained together. So now it's absolutely no issues because everybody is used to being together. Earlier, why the people were so rigid about not having women in combat? Because they always felt that they won't be able to survive because obviously these basic facilities are not there. You have to sleep in tents. It may not be essential that you will get a tent which is separately. You might get a tent separate for yourself. Even as a woman, I also need to get used to that idea that even if in a tent I am sleeping with a co-worker who is a male officer, it is perfectly fine. Now our mindsets have changed. Now nobody minds a male and a female being together, working out, going together, anything. Earlier, that rigidity was there because I think it's a mindset. It takes years to change. Now we have reached that stage where we are being together, and it's a welcome thing for all the forces.
Well, we saw that. I mean, we were looking at the stats for the NDA admissions. This year's NDA.
Yeah, there were, I think, almost 1 in every 3 applicants were women.
I mean, 1 in 3 applicants for NDA was women, and
NDA
20 seats. Only 20 seats.
It's only for 19. I guess 19 or 20 seats they have as of now.
And
they'll increase.
Yeah,
I think it was the first time. And obviously, NDA has been, for that matter, any of the defense forces, wherever girls are very keen on going.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a school here. Every year, girls keep on asking, "Ma'am, NDA हमारे लिए कब खुलेगा? हमारे लिए कब खुलेगा?" And this year, I think the moment the Supreme Court gave the declaration, and there were like heap of applications going in from girls.
Yeah. So we just talked about like girls who are wanting to get into NDA. So what would be your advice to them as to how, from your experience, what would you tell them? Like, okay, this is what you should be prepared for. I think you have mentioned a few more before that they'll be hard to adjust to few changes, but anything more you want to add?
You have to, it is more, I would say, leave. The entrances is not an issue. That is obviously all entrance exams have, whatever. But once you get inside, it's more about your mental strength. Your physical strength obviously is needed, but it is at the end of it that how much you are able to take on. Only thing is, when you are getting into it, be prepared that it won't be easy. As such, NDA is not easy. It's toughening, which really takes a you have to go with that mindset that I have to do this. There will be failures. You will, I am sure it's not about girls or boys, even boys cry at the end of the day because it is tough. The training is tough. And NDA, obviously, because it's a 3 years, this thing, it is the most toughest of all the defense services, because when you go thereafter, when you go to IMA or OTA or AFA, anywhere, you have already seen. So you can just walk through. So it is basically more about your mental strength and the determination that now that I have come in, I won't give up. I have to go with that mindset in me that this, and it has come to me after a huge fight.
Correct.
So I have to go with, I won't give up. I have to sail through it.
Yeah.
That was great, yeah.
That is a great message, I think everyone carries.
Thank you so much.
Now, recommendation.
Oh yeah, recommendations. We need a
Yeah.
recommendation from you.
Yeah, a recommendation could be anything.
I mean, it could be a bit of exercise also. It could be a fashion routine also. It could be a hair makeup tip also. Any recommendation. It could be.
Okay. My one recommendation is that I started doing yoga a few years back, maybe around 3 years. And I was always I have been a person who was a sports enthusiast who would be on outdoors rather than indoors. So when people used to tell me ki yoga and all, I used to say, kya hai? Matlab andar baith ke how can you just, there's hardly, you feel there is no physical activity into it. But I realized, and especially during this COVID period, I realized, because I started doing yoga before, I was able to sail through the whole period, touch wood, even without a single cold and cough, when everybody around me was falling sick left, right, and center. I was able to sail through it.
Yeah.
But it is, even if we start with simple breathing exercises, it does help. I have felt it myself. That is why I thought I'll just share. Simple pranayama breathing exercises helps boost your immunity. And if you stay healthy physically, if you are fit, a lot of things in your life stay in place.
I think that's a wonderful recommendation.
Yeah,
Start yoga.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Everyone, I'm sure, would have enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you for being a friend of Tynkrr.
Thank you
so nice.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for making me a part of it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was a great conversation with a very inspiring person. I think we took a lot away. We learned about how it is to be a woman in the army and what she learned. And I think everyone can take something from it who wants to go into army or like into the armed forces or not as well. So just, yeah, I'm just excited to see, because when she talked about girls being excited about this ruling, it made me feel really good that, because people say, oh, girls are not inherently interested in armed forces. Why would they be? Like, they have their own choices. But I feel like this proves that girls want to do everything. So I think that's a great way to end this segment. Let's go on to our ecstasies. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so my recommendation, my ecstasy, is this book called Song of Achilles. And it's a quite a famous book right now because of the booktube and book talk, the social media aspect of it, but it lives up to the hype is all I can say. But this book is basically about Achilles, who is the Greek demigod. I think most of us, the Achilles heel that we're more familiar with. And this book is about legacy and like sacrifice, and also like it's about war, about how people lose so much in war, and it's about this relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. It's a beautiful love story that happens between of Trojan War. And so I think this is my suggestion and my ecstasy. I absolutely love that book. I made a recommendation, and we're going to link it here as well. You can check that out. There's a more detailed review, but I'll leave you with this. It's a great book, and I recommend it to anyone to read it. Now, what's your ecstasy?
My recommendation is this book called Extreme Ownership. Now, this is a very interesting idea, and I've always believed that there are lessons to be learned. And Ruchita was also talking about how the Fauji way of life can give us lessons. But these are about leadership lessons. These are about life lessons that you could get from how Navy SEALs operate. Navy SEALs is one of that, it's a very elite unit in US Defense Forces, and how do you tackle a problem? And those problems could be out there. It is a strategic problem, it is a military problem, but those problems could be also in business. Those problems could also be in your life.
Yeah.
And so war, business, life, and how do you tackle those problems, looking at resources and what you have. I think that way
Extreme ownership.
extreme ownership.
Great. That's I think great recommendations. I think we talked a lot about legacy and sacrifice, and then you talked about leadership and ownership of your life. I think she also talked about it. Like every day you'll feel like giving up, but you have to own your life and just keep moving forward. Get up each day. Take each day as one day at a time. So yeah, I think that's great. Let's wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon. You can check us out on other podcast streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, or anywhere you stream your podcast. We obviously are here on YouTube as well. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching,
and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.